I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Aloha! Welcome to Unity Church of Maui Sunday service. I've got a little story to tell you this morning. This couple decided to go to Palm Springs for a few days and to take some time off from work. But because they both worked at different places and had different schedules, it was difficult for them to get away at the same time. So they decided that the husband would go a day early and his wife would join him the following day. On arriving, the husband thought it'd be nice to email his wife and from his laptop. So he sent her a nice email, but he didn't realize he accidentally typed in the wrong email address. And the woman had just returned from her husband's funeral. Her husband was a Christian minister and had a heart attack and died. The woman checked her email and expecting to get messages from relatives and friends, but she found this. To my loving wife, from your departed husband. Subject, I have arrived. I've just arrived and have checked in. I see that everything has been prepared for your arrival tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I hope your journey will be as wonderful as mine. P.S. It sure is hot down here. I love that story, and I wonder how this poor widow was able to be transformed by the mistyped email or by the mistake that this gentleman made. You know, life presents us with all kinds of fascinating opportunities. Have you noticed? So today, we're going to focus on the wisdom of mistakes. Many of us spend a lot of our time beating ourselves up for the mistakes we make. True for you? Maybe not. Maybe it's just me. But when we beat ourselves up for our mistakes, we miss the opportunity that the universe is offering us to experience more harmony and more joy and more prosperity. You know, mistakes can be useful in a number of ways. Mistakes can help us get back into the alignment of life. You know, when we are out of alignment, that's when we tend to make the most mistakes. Mistakes also help us make a distinction between what we want and what we need. Mistakes can also be a reminder to help us get focused, to help us be grounded, to help us be present in this moment. So why don't we practice that? I invite you to uncross your legs if you have them crossed and to put your feet flat on the floor. And as you do so, feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel imagine the earth supporting you and holding you up. And in the same way, take a few breaths and just come into this moment to be present right now. You know, because it is when we are totally present and totally grounded that we make the fewest mistakes. So, you know, I know that it's true that we can dance with reaction, or we can stand in solidarity with power. And we tend to be able to do that when we're more grounded. And these are two different ways of looking at life. And so it's my hope today that by looking at the transforming power of mistakes, that we'll be able to see them in a new way and to experience them while being more grounded and more present. There are no mistakes. There are just opportunities for greater clarity. There are 3 attributes about mistakes that we're going to look at today. And we can use these attributes of mistakes to help us be more productive and present in life. And I'll speak about each one separately, but just to list them all for you to know where we're going. The first attribute is that we can remove the fear of mistakes. In essence, we can stop owning them. We can stop having lunch with them. We can stop having an afternoon cup of tea with our mistakes. Mistakes also, number 2, can encourage us to be creative and intelligent. And number 3, within every mistake, there is a pot of gold. So the first attribute of a mistake is that we can remove fear from mistakes. The truth is that mistakes in themselves carry no harm or no fear. But it's the way that we interpret the mistakes that creates fear and harm and disillusion. A mistake should be a lesson and not a loss. So often we see a mistake as something we've done wrong and something we should be condemned for, when in truth, a mistake offers us an opportunity for transformation. The greatest mistake, I believe, that a person can make is not to be willing to make any mistakes at all. So there's some things that we can do when we make a mistake, and the first thing we can do is admit it. To admit, oh, I made a mistake. Oh gosh. And the second thing we can do is to learn from that mistake. And the third thing that we can do is to not repeat it. And I just thought of the fourth thing we can do, and that is to let it go and don't think of that mistake again. You know, there's a story that I like about a research scientist, and he's very well known and accomplished a lot in his life. And he was asked by a newspaper reporter why he was so creative in what he did. What was his secret? And he said that his creativity came from an experience that he had with his mother when he was 2 years old. And he describes it this way. I was trying to remove a bottle of milk from the refrigerator when I lost my grip of the slippery bottle, and it fell, spilling its contents all over the kitchen floor. There was a huge sea of milk everywhere. When my mother came into the kitchen, instead of punishing me or giving me a lecture, she said, "Robert, I have rarely seen such a huge puddle of milk. Well, the damage has been done. How would you like to get down and play in the milk? And then we'll clean it up." "Yes," I said, "that would be great." So after playing for a few minutes in the milk, my mother said, "You know, Robert, when we make a mess like this, eventually we have to clean it up. So how would you like to do that? Would you like to use a sponge or a paper towel or a mop?" And I thought for a second, and I said, "A sponge." So we took the sponge and we cleaned up the milk. And my mother said later, in effect, she said, "What we have here is a failed experiment on how to carry a bottle of milk with 2 hands. So let's go into the backyard and fill a bottle with milk and see if you can discover a way to carry it without dropping it and spilling it." And I learned that if I grasp the bottle at the top and at the bottom with both hands, I could carry it without dropping it. What a wonderful lesson. You know, and I knew in that moment that I didn't have to be afraid of making mistakes. Instead, I learned that mistakes were just an opportunity to learn something new, to find a new and different way to do something, to choose again. Which, you know, being a scientist, that's what I've discovered science is all about. It's about trying things and seeing what works and creating something new. You know, even if the experiment doesn't work, we usually learn something valuable from it. We learn from our mistakes. So hopefully we won't repeat the same mistake. Imagine approaching your life with the experience and the wisdom that this doctor's mother, this scientist's mother, created him to be able to look at mistakes in such an evolved and powerful way. You know, this dialogue wasn't the same dialogue that I experienced in my house growing up when there was spilled milk. My stepfather was very talented, and he loved to build things. And he had every tool in his workshop that you could possibly imagine. And he knew how to build just about everything. If he didn't know how to build it, he would figure it out. And you know, I've never liked to build stuff. Last week, I was making some repairs to our toilet, and I was lying on the floor in this tight space, and it's wet, and I noticed how anxious and nervous I was when I'm working the wrenches and the pipes behind the toilet. And at one point, I got really frustrated, and I got up, and I almost gave up on what I was doing. I almost put stuff back like it was and just said, forget it. But I walked away, and I took a few deep breaths, and I just kind of became centered, yes? And then I walked back in, and I was able to complete the job that I was doing. And when I thought about it later, I thought, why is it that I am so nervous? Why is it that I feel so anxious when I am making these repairs? And I've noticed this in other times in my life as well. And what I noticed and what I remembered was that anytime while working with my stepfather, if I made a mistake, he would condemn me and harass me and make me feel stupid about whatever I was doing. And so I began to resent it, and I decided not to work with him if I ever had the choice. And I can see now that, you know, there's a large part of me that is sometimes afraid of getting feedback or getting criticized, because it brings back those memories for me of those difficult times in my childhood. And what I realize now is I can let that go, because I did fix that toilet, and I realize now that I do have the ability and that I am smart enough and I can figure things out. And so this example or this event was really the beginning of this talk and what inspired me to write this talk today. You know, I've learned that there are very few so-called mistakes in our life. Most of them are lessons that we can use to discover the fullness and the essence of who we are, and to continue our expansion on this planet. A mistake should be a teacher and not an attacker. A mistake is a lesson, not a loss. It's a necessary and temporary detour. It's not a dead end. So we need to stop treating mistakes like that. A mistake should be a teacher, not our attacker. Mistakes help us get back into alignment with life. So think of a mistake that you've made at some point in your life, perhaps as a child, perhaps as an adult, and just kind of think about what that mistake was. What was it that you did? And how do you look at that mistake now? Can you see that you have been able to transform it, or does it still have some energy for you? So often our mistakes can be a guilt trip for us, right? I've ventured into this guilt trip with my stepfather and being afraid to do something new, especially if it's mechanical, many times in my lifetime. But I am committed to moving through that and addressing myself and being differently in a situation like that. You know, so many of the guilt trips that we lay on ourselves have certain words I'm sure you recognize, like should have, should not have, and we can just should all over ourselves, can't we? And other words include had better, didn't do, forgot to, and the list goes on of all the ways that we can should on ourselves and the ways that we can make ourselves feel guilty and take a guilt trip to Timbuktu. So, what do we do with our mistakes? Do we carry them around and tell the same story over and over again, failing to realize that every detour was a mistake pointing in the direction of where we should be going? Every mistake is a detour pointing in the direction of where we should be going. This is the transformation that we're talking about today. So consider the possibilities that who you are today is based on your mistakes. Lots of times we think, oh, you know, I am today for my successes. But what if we are today who we are because of the mistakes that we made? And because of the fact that we've been able to bring ourselves back to center, to get grounded, to get refocused, and to change our direction. I think that the greatest mistake that a person can make is to be afraid of making one. How else do we learn? We learn from our mistakes. You know, someone who's never made any mistakes has probably never done anything, never learned anything. And somebody who's never made mistakes is probably pretty boring, yes? So a mistake should be a teacher, not an attacker. Mistakes help us get back into the alignment of life. So consider a mistake that you've made and what you can learn from it. Maybe that's your homework for this week, just to look at something that you did in the past that was a mistake, and then to say, what is it I can learn from this mistake? The second attribute of a mistake is to know that mistakes encourage us to be creative and intelligent. When life seems to fall apart, we have the opportunity to recognize it and take a new path. Remember the story of the scientist who invented Post-its? The year was 1968. Some of us were alive then. The inventor was Spencer Silver, and he was a scientist for 3M, the Minnesota-based headquarters. And he was working to create a strong adhesive. And by mistake, he invented an adhesive that will stick to almost anything without damaging the surface of what it was sticking to. He created Post-its. And Post-its have become hugely successful, and I imagine you have them in your office, and I meant to bring some today. Not that you don't know what they look like. They're the canary yellow, and now there's many colors of them, of course. And now Post-its are huge, and they're used in over 100 countries. Post-its are huge, an invention that came out of a mistake. I like what Thomas Edison said. He said he was the inventor of the light bulb, remember? He said, I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that not to make a light bulb. George Bernard Shaw wrote, a life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. a mistake should be our teacher, not our attacker. Mistakes help us get back into the alignment of life. The third attribute of a mistake is to realize that that within a mistake there is a pot of gold. There is a lesson to be learned that will transform our lives and help us to make a new decision, to have a new belief, a new power, a new ability, if we are willing to face the challenge. In ancient time, a king had a huge rock placed in the middle of the road. He then hid to see if anyone would remove the rock from the middle of the road. Some of the king's wealthiest merchants passed by. Some of his other leaders in the kingdom walked by. And some people showed up and they complained that the king had not removed this huge rock from the middle of the road. Then a simple farmer came by, bearing a load of vegetables, and he set his vegetables down and he tried to move the stone. And after much pushing and straining, he finally succeeded in pushing the stone off to the side of the road. And when he went back to gather his vegetables, he noticed that there was a pot in the place where the stone was. And he picked up the pot and he looked inside, and there was a number of gold coins in the pot. And there was also a note. And he pulled out the note, and the note said, these coins are from the king for the person who moved this stone. Wow. The farmer learned that he learned what so many people refused to understand, that underneath every challenge, there is gold. People who never bother to live an examined life don't get the gold. Socrates said, an examined life is not worth living. Instead of running from our challenges and our mistakes, we should pick them up, look at them, and learn from them. You know, I learned I can fix a toilet. Don't invite me over to your house, though, to fix yours. I only fix my own. However, I've learned that I can fix things without getting nervous and anxious. And I wonder, what have you learned? What will you learn as you examine yourself this week and a mistake that you made? What can you learn about yourself that will be that pot of gold to help you to be prosperous and rich in ideas and prosperity of thinking and living life in a powerful way? Often we carry around a memory of our old mistakes and we beat ourselves up for things that we did in the past. Once we've come to terms with a mistake, then we need to let it go. It takes practice. When a memory of an old mistake raises its head out of the sand, it's a reminder that we can say, thank you for sharing. I have done my work with this. Thank you for being here, but I let you go. I am no longer consumed with this mistake of my past. I let you go. Our teachings inform us that everything is consciousness. As a country, as a world, we have many challenges in the midst of us right now, including racial injustice, climate change, a polarized government, and a worldwide pandemic. Many of these challenges are a result of our collective consciousness, or maybe our collective unconsciousness. We get to be a part in healing our community. We get to be a part of healing this beautiful place of Maui where many of us live. And we get to be a part of healing what's happening in our country and to bring a new way of thinking and being to everything we think, say, and do. So we plant seeds of love and prosperity and forgiveness. And we teach others that they can let go of their mistakes as well and be prosperous and filled with love. You know, if we don't like the effects of what we're seeing in our lives and in the world, we can change the cause. We can change our beliefs. We can change our words. We can change our actions. We can become whole when we dare to look at ourselves, to change our thinking, to be conscious of the healing possibilities that are here for us, to bring forth healing for ourselves, for our community, and for the world. Someone said, learn from the mistakes of others. You can't possibly live long enough to make them all yourself. Watch others' mistakes and learn from how they cope with them, how they transform them, how they turn them around. A mistake should be our teacher, not our attacker. Mistakes help us get back into the alignment of life. I do not dwell in past mistakes, but look for the pot of gold within them. Say that with me. I do not dwell in past mistakes, but look for the pot of gold within them. And I invite you to close your eyes. And let's breathe into this moment. Remember that centering place, that place of truth and light and love that is the essence of who you are. And in this place, I invite you to gather the strength and the power of the truth. To be in a place of acknowledging your mistakes, learning from your mistakes, standing in the transformed beliefs and ideas that are a result of looking at your life, recognizing the power that you have, the love that you have, and the truth that the essence of spirit within you wants to experience as you. So breathing in and breathing out. Let's take just a moment to be together in the silence and to know that right now, in our consciousness, a healing is happening. A new way of being is happening. Our thoughts are being transformed right now. So let's join together for just a few moments in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Becoming aware of the breath. Becoming aware of wherever you are. Becoming aware of the essence of light and truth that you are. The essence of the spirit that is the dominating potential within you. Breathe in to this awareness, into this potential. As you gently bring your awareness back to this moment right here, giving thanks for all the blessings that Spirit, the universe, that God is bringing to you right now. And I invite you to open your eyes when you're ready. And so it is. Namaste. And I invite you at this time to prepare your love offerings, your donations to Unity Church of Maui. And as you do so, to hold your check or to picture in your mind what is the figure that you're going to give to Unity Church of Maui today, to bless us and to be thankful for the work that we do. And we do hope that these teachings are transforming your life. And thank you for giving to us, because it helps us maintain this ministry and this beautiful sanctuary where I am right at this moment. And so that we can continue to offer these truths to you. So as you hold your gift, let's affirm and pray together our prayer for prosperity, our affirmation of prosperity together. Through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Thank you. So you might ask, how can I give to this amazing ministry, Unity Church of Maui? Well, you can do it a couple ways. You can do it the old-fashioned way that still is really effective, and that is to write a check to Unity Church of Maui and to put it in an envelope addressed to Unity Church of Maui at 483 South High Street in Wailuku. And you can also go to our website, www.unityonmaui.org, and click on our very secure donate button. And thank you in advance for your gifts. And I got just a couple announcements to make today. Next week, my talk is titled, Who Do You Think You Are? So who do you think you are? You know, we often worry about what others think about us. True? Maybe as we get a little older, it's easier not to do that. But I like the expression that goes, what others think about me is none of my business. Wow, that's a huge lesson. I wish I had known that when I was in my teens and early 20s. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what others think about us. What really is important is, what do we think about ourselves? What do we say to ourselves when we are alone and we think that nobody's listening? And of course, once in a while we get caught. I think I got caught earlier today talking to myself. And I wonder, what do you say to yourself? So we're going to look at who do we think we are, and what do we say to ourselves, and how can we use that time as a powerful time of aligning with our essence and the spiritual truth that's within us. So that'll be happening next week right here at the same time. And we'll look at some hidden beliefs that we have and how we can transform those. Also, you might know that we are just beginning a capital campaign to get a new van. Because we're assuming that before too long, sometime in the spring, I imagine, we'll be back in this amazing building on High Street and transporting people to and from the county building. And you may know that our last van, as much as we loved it, kind of had finished its journey here on Maui. and we had to move it on because it was just having trouble. It was a little sick, I guess you might say. And so we are taking this opportunity to create a capital campaign to get a new van. And we're envisioning that we would like to raise about $10,000 to buy a van that's really going to serve our community in a great way. And I have to tell you that I just learned today that a donation has been made of $1,000. And so we are 1/10 of the way to our goal. And I feel very excited about that. And so as you see, we are on this journey and we are going to be successful. And you can send your gifts and your capital campaign donation to Unity Church of Maui at 483 South High Street in Wailuku. And the area code, or the zip code, is 96793. 96793. And put on your check that it's for the van capital campaign, and that way we'll know where to enter your wonderful donation in our books. So thank you for that. And if you enjoy what we do on Sunday morning, you can find more talks like this on our Unity Church of Maui YouTube page. And right now, we're not able to tie any music into our videos, but there's lots of music on our YouTube page. So check it out. And also the links for our Sunday 11 o'clock time of our community time on Zoom. The links to that are on our webpage and in our newsletter. So at 11 o'clock today, we'll be meeting on Zoom to be able to talk about our lesson and other things going on in our lives. So I think that's about covers it for today. It's a mouthful, I must admit. But thank you again for being here. I love you, I appreciate you, and I behold the Christ in you. And why don't we bring this time together today to a close by praying and affirming the prayer for protection together. And it begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, my friends. Mahalo and aloha.